So, hi there. I'm Matt Sweeting, your agent for life. Hi, I'm Matt Sweeting, your agent for life. And today I wanted to, hi there. I'm Matt Sweeting, your agent for life. And hi, I'm Matt Sweeting, your agent for life. And recently I did a presentation called Buy Now or Rent Forever. And in this presentation, I talk about how the market is changing, how the dynamics for real estate, especially for young people who've yet or working towards purchasing real estate, that dynamic is changing drastically. I'm going to go into a condensed version of my presentation called Buy Now or Rent Forever and the opportunities that presents for your consideration. And I really think if you're a young person, if you're after the bag, if you're ambitious, if you want real estate, you need to pay attention to these numbers because they are remarkable. Let's jump right into it. So I start this presentation by talking about the state of the market and talking about where the market is and how each real estate company, a number of real estate companies shared the thoughts about where the market is. And in this, I talk about one of my colleagues who says this is the best year in 99 years. They have the oldest of three companies. And it was notable that three different agencies and three different brokers had similar thoughts about the market. I myself shared in this article saying that it's the best I've experienced in my real estate career, right? So the market's doing very well. Then I define what's the difference between a seller's and a buyer's market. And, if you don't know that these things are driven by supply and demand, right? If there's a lot of supply and there's little demand, then we're considered in a buyer's market. If there's little supply and lots of demand, then we're considered in a seller's market. Did I say that right? You get what I mean. So this helps us to determine what kind of market we're in. And we're really in a seller's market because there's very little supply and there's lots of demand. I wanted to jump into this case study that really showed how much real estate prices are moving and how well, from a seller's perspective, real estate is doing, and how stark the reality is for real estate for buyers. Let's jump into it. So I talked about this development in the West. It was a 200 condo development where prices started at about 230,000. And this community was hailed as one of the best communities around that time. And I think this is substantial because, again, oftentimes when appraisers value property, one of the things that they aim to do is they aim to compare a red apple to a green apple. Oftentimes, because there are very few red apple to red apple comparisons. What I mean by that is that if I sell my home in the West, that there's hardly ever any other homes that are identical to it, right? My lot might be bigger, I might have a bigger pool, my construction might be newer. And so when they attempt to compare the two, they're comparing a red apple to a green apple. In this particular case, so this is a red apple to a red apple because it's the identical development. I hope that makes sense. Because what I'm going to show you is a movement in price over a period of 8 years in the same development and the same unit. Let's look at it. 8 years ago, in this community, which is located just past the airport around the Old Fort Town Center, they launched a unit called the Oasis. And this unit was 913 square feet, right? 991 square feet, I'm sorry. Um, and it was two bedrooms, two bathrooms, right? In 2015, that unit, this is a screenshot here from my website, that unit sold for $249,000, right? That, if we were to run the math on that, we see that that puts us around nine $253 per square foot. Now follow me here. Again, when we try to make an apples to apples comparison, the argument that we are going to make is what is the price per square foot? And when we did the math on that, 249,000 divided by 981, we end up with $253 per square foot. That tells us for each foot of this property, how much are they charging for it? Well, the number is 253. This development just launched their second phase. And in their second phase, you're going to be surprised to hear the number that they're relaunching the same unit in the same development in the same location for. Let's look at it. In 2023, they relaunched the second phase of this development at $449,000. Now we ran the math on the 2015 numbers. Let's do the same thing for our 2023 numbers. 449,981 square foot, sorry, is now $457 per square foot over an 8-year period. This represents an 80% appreciation over that period, which is slightly or considerably higher than the global average, which is around 3 to 4%, right? Based on that number, the same unit would have been at 349,000 using that global average. But we see considerably higher appreciation rates in the Bahamas, specifically in the condo development area. Here's where I go into some numbers. 8 years ago, a 25-year mortgage, you would have needed to make about $40,000. Today, the same unit, now at the 449 price, you would need to make $70,000. What it's showing you is how affordability is changing, and your ability and your buying power is changing by the day. And so this is where I get the thought process from that if you do not buy now, you might potentially rent forever. There's an opportunity here. And I want to jump right over to that. And what I'm showing here is that these numbers are not specific to just that development. These numbers we're seeing congruent movement in other developments as well, like Villanova, like West End, like Coconut Cove. What this means is that your ability to purchase is changing. But I want to talk about the opportunity. I'm glad you stuck around. I really, really appreciate it, because here's where the rubber hits the road. And before I do that, I want to talk about how much of an opportunity this is, because if you were to only wear your buyer hat, you might miss the fact that this presents an opportunity for you who's ambitious, who is willing to always see the glass half full, and willing to make a major move. So let's look at that. So if you can build a building with today's construction rates for anywhere between $140,000 to $165,000, and condos are selling for anywhere from $350 to $450, that means that there's tremendous opportunity for you to get into building buildings. Now, I understand you're not a contractor, you're not a builder, you've never built anything in your life. But there's an opportunity for you as well to do something what I'm calling micro development. But before we do, I want to jump into something we call the paradigm. And I want to define it because it's going to play a major part into how I think you should be thinking. A paradigm is a worldview underlying the theories and methodology of a particular scientific subject. That's the complicated answer. But it's really the way you think about something. It's the way you develop thoughts on an idea, a paradigm, right? Some people think that Black people always like chicken. And that's a paradigm that they've been established. And you know what? The paradigm might be right. And some of those paradigms are not serving you in your adult life. Let's talk about some of them. I want to call it the Grammy paradigm. And the Grammy paradigm says, baby, you got to own your own house. And this is a thought process that we've grown to know. We have grown to know this, and we think about our grandparents And we think about the fact that this is something that a lot of them have been successful in doing. Very few of our grandparents are renting. They own their own properties, and they may have been fortunate enough to get those mortgages paid off, and that house might still be in the family. But that was the thought process. You need your own house. We matured. We went into the mommy paradigm. The mommy paradigm was a step up. And mommy said, you need your own income property. Mommy said you needed to get a property that you could live in, but also that you could live on you could get income from that property as well. And I think the two of these paradigms, the two of these thought processes are not serving who you are in 2023. Let me explain. When I gave this presentation to a room of about, I'd say about 80 people, I asked in the room, how many people in the room have heard their parents or grandparents use the term generational wealth? One person raised their hand. I joked that that person might have had a very, very young Grammy, but my Grammy never used the words. Your Grammy probably neither. My mother never used the words generational wealth. And so this whole thought process about I want to create enough wealth that's going to live for generations is a generally new thought among the larger populace, right? We had reasoned that wealthy people may have often had this thought, but generally speaking, most of us do not come from wealth, right? We do not come from a thought process around generational wealth, and we don't come from money. This is a new thought process. Our ambitions are much bigger than Grammy, and they definitely much bigger than Mommy. And so what we attempt to do with real estate needs to be different. There's where the paradigm comes in. So you ain't following the Grammy paradigm. You ain't following the Mommy paradigm. Well, Matt, what do I follow? Well, what you should be following is the body paradigm. And the body paradigm talks about you need to sell real estate. And again, I know you don't build anything, you've never built anything, you don't know the first step in the process. But what I'm admonishing every single ambitious person to do who realizes that my job just being be able to do it. My single income and even my side hustle is not going to bridge the gap between what I want and where I am. Here's what you do. You pursue what I'm calling a micro developer. Now, we all know someone who may have built a house in their lifetime. While it was a very challenging process, they did it. They decided that they couldn't find what they want, so they built it. And for quite a number of people, that has turned out very well. And in some cases, that has turned out to be a nightmare as well. But there's an opportunity there. And there are a number of ways to mitigate the nightmare stories that usually go along with building property and new construction. And we could talk about that. But roll with me on this thought process for a moment that I want you to open your mind to becoming a micro developer. Who is that? This is someone who likely has a full-time job, but has decided to develop real estate for sale or rental. There's an opportunity there. Let's talk about it. This concept could work for someone who can easily move, someone who's an ambitious professional, open to new ventures, has mental and physical bandwidth to do it. This is going to require a bit of that. And they're willing to get their hands dirty. They're willing to get involved in construction. It's not for everyone. So the simple math of it is land plus building equals sellable inventory. And that's what we want you to do. So let's run some numbers here and let's see what we're talking. If you were to acquire a piece of land for 150,000 multifamily, and let's assume you built 2 buildings. Let's assume those buildings are essentially 1,130 square feet. I think that's what these numbers are based on. It's going to cost you about $316,000 to build. If you were to add the building plus the land, you're at $466,000. These are just rough numbers. And again, these need to be taken on a case-by-case basis. But the numbers that I'm showing you here are for illustrative purposes only. So when you dispose of this property, because of the numbers that we're seeing in the sale of real estate and condo development, here's what the potential is. Sell at 600,000, each unit at 300,000 a piece. You put in originally 466,000, and your gross profit is 133,000. Now, if you were to do that in 6 months, would it be worth it? If you were to do that in 9 months, would it be worth it? If you were to do that in 24 months, would it be worth it? Because if you were to think about any business that you were to get started in, the likelihood of you making 133,000 as gross profit in your first year or even first 2 years of business is highly unlikely. And what I'm showing you here is a proposition to do this while you maintain a full-time job. These numbers are impressive to me. Let me know what you think. This represents what I think every ambitious professional should be doing. Every person that has a desire to travel more than the regular person. They have a desire to have more than the regular person. They want to achieve more, they want to be more, and they want to create generational wealth. I'm Matt Sweeting, your agent for life. I help people build legacy. And I want to help you do that as well. If you're interested in getting this presentation, seeing my breakdown on how this works, or getting on a call to talk about this in a little bit more detail, let me know. I'm here to help. Expert help. See you on the next one.